Hello, and thanks for joining us for this Noteworks video tutorial. In this video, we will show you how to customize user groups and user permissions to control what different users and user groups are able to edit and see, only see, or not see at all within your database. So to get started, first head to the settings page by clicking the settings button at the top of your screen. And then once you're there, locate the User Groups tab from the left-hand menu to start customizing user groups. And you can see by default that the two user groups that are included out of the box in Noteworks are administrators who have full functionality and full access to everything in Noteworks, and then users. When you customize permissions for these different groups, that means that whenever a user is added to one of these groups, the permissions that you defined will be loaded as presets for that user. You can later go in and customize the permissions for that specific user within a group later, but by default, as soon as that user is added and assigned a user group, they will load that group's default permissions. So to walk you through this, let's say you want to add a group that only has access to loans in a certain fund that you have, or loans that belong to a certain investor. So I'm going to click Add User Group by clicking this green button at the top of my screen, and I will call this Alpha Fund Users. And then I get a bunch of options to customize what these users are going to see. So the first tab of options here are to customize which tabs in loan profiles that these users can see. And these options are on an investor basis, so I can specify different sets of user permissions for loans in one of my funds, and then an entirely different set of permissions for loans in a second fund, for example. So you can be quite specific and quite granular about what you want different users to see. So as I said before, these users are only going to have access to one of my funds, the Alpha Fund. So as far as I'm concerned, they can have access to all the tabs in my loan profiles for the Alpha Fund loans. They're able to view and edit all information, all my tabs, but for my Beta Fund files, which I'm going to load by clicking Beta Fund from the drop-down, I don't want users in this group to be able to see these loans at all. So I'm going to click Hide for all these tabs. And by doing that, I'm going to hide all these tabs from users in this group. So that means anytime they enter one of the loans in the Beta Fund, they're not going to be able to see anything or edit anything. So again, the options here are to edit and view information, view only, or completely hide the information altogether. So I've got that set up. Next, I have an option to control which navigation tabs users in this group have access to, and these refer to these different buttons at the top of the screen. Again, same options as before. You can control whether users are able to view and edit information in these tabs, or only see these tabs, or maybe not see these tabs altogether. So I'm going to leave this be for now. Move on to my third set of options here. And this third tab lets me control which settings in my settings page users in this group are able to access. So as you can see here, all these different options correspond to the options in the settings tab all these tabs in this menu on your left hand side here. So I'm going to make it so users in this group can't edit permissions for themselves. So I'm going to change users and user groups to view only, but I'm fine with them being able to see pretty much everything else. So I've done that. I'm going to move to our last set of options, which is to customize a specific set of loans that users in this group can either have access to and only access these loans, or I can specify a set of loans where users in this group will not be able to see them at all. So this is different from the settings applied in the loan level tabs options where I decided to hide old tabs within my loan profiles for loans in my beta fund from users in this group, because with just this selected, users in the alpha fund group will still be able to see that loans in the beta fund exist. They just won't be able to see what all the information on all the loan profile tabs are. So if I want to hide loans in my beta fund from alpha fund users altogether, I can do that as well. So to do that, I'm going to start customizing which loans that users in this group have access to on an investor level basis. So obviously these are alpha fund users I'm creating permissions for, so I'm going to allow them full access to all loans in the alpha fund, which I have selected here. But recall that I don't want them to access any loans in my beta fund. So I'm going to load the options for the beta fund, and I have three options here. Again, the first is to allow users in this group access to all loans in the selected fund. The second option is to restrict users in this group's access to a set of loans that I select. The third option is to restrict users in this group's access to any loans except the ones I select. So again, I don't want users in this group to see any files in my beta fund, so I'm going to click restrict users access to only the following loans, or in other words, only loans I select with this search button. So if I don't search for any, then users in this group will not have access to any loans in the beta fund. But obviously there are a lot more combinations you can come up with to control in quite complex ways which loans users are able to see in this group. For example, let's say even though I don't want users in my alpha fund to usually see loans in my beta fund, let's say for some reason there is one loan in my beta fund that I want users in this group to have access to after all. So I'm going to click search after, again, I've selected the option to restrict users in this group's access to only loans I select. So I'm going to select those loans now, and again we're looking for just the one loan that we wanted alpha users to have access to. So I'm going to click search, and that's going to bring up a search prompt. So with this prompt, you're going to find whatever loans you're looking for that you want to add to this option. So I'm going to find the loan I had in mind, and again here we're just looking for one loan that we want users in this group to have access to within this portfolio of files. So the file I had in mind was the Gargery file on Blackwood. Perfect. I'm going to check that. I'm going to click Add Selected. So here I've got all the results of my search, and I want to only take a subset of that and actually add it to my permissions. So I'm going to click the file I want to select, click Add Selected, and then I will receive confirmation in the prompt that the file I selected is the one I want to add to my permissions. And there we have it, a list of all the files I've selected. If you want to run other searches, maybe you're after more than one file, but you can't get it all with one search query, you can go ahead and do that here, and you can keep adding selected files to keep growing this list without losing any of the files you'd selected from previous searches. So I'm just after this one file, so I'm done searching. I've got the file I need. I'm going to click Submit. And then that file that I searched for and selected will have a special permission rule added for it, which specifically is to restrict alpha users access to all loans except for this one in the beta fund. So they're able to see everything in my alpha fund. They're able to see nothing in my beta fund except for this one file here. So again, there are a lot of different combinations you can come up with to get very specific about what you want your users to see in terms of loan navigation and site navigation and control panel options, and of course, as you've seen just now, specific sets of loans that you want users to see. So once you're done with all of that, you can click Save, and you have just saved permissions that load by default for any users who are added to this group. So with that, if I add a user now to my Alpha Fund user group, that user will have those specific sets of permissions that we just defined. Now, let's say that you have a user who's in a group and you've got permissions loaded that are the default ones for that group, but you want to tweak them a little bit and tailor them specifically to that user. Obviously not change everything to warrant the creation of an entirely new user group, but you just want to make a few customizations to that user's specific iteration of those user group permissions. So for example, here I've got myself as a user. I'm going to edit my own user permissions by clicking on my name in the users table and then clicking the edit link on the bottom right of this user's user profile. And once you've done that, once you've located your user from the Users tab, gone to their profile, clicked Edit Users Permissions, then you'll get exactly the same set of options you saw in the User Group Permissions screen. So again, you have loan level tab customization, navigation tabs, settings options, and then the option to control what this specific user can see for specific loans. So all the same things here as before, just on a user level. Once you're done changing all this, it's again just as simple as clicking Save, and whatever changes you've made will be saved for that user in particular. They won't change for other users in that user group, but just for that user. And finally, if you want to edit any user's user group, you can do that by again going to this permissions page, and at the top of the page there's a drop down defining the user's user group. Right now, for example, this one is an admin. You can change that to anything else you have defined as a user group, and once you've made that change, you would click Save at the bottom and you would be good to go. So that covers this Noteworks video tutorial on user groups and editing user permissions. Um, we hope you found this helpful. If you have any other questions about how to edit permissions or different things you can do with user groups or user permissions, feel free to refer to our user manual for Noteworks version 2. And of course, you can always call us or write in with any questions you have or help you may need, and we'll be happy to assist you. So thanks a lot for watching this video tutorial, and thanks again for using Noteworks.